Hi guys, I'm going to do a couple of parts of this video. So it's now 5,600 miles in, 6 months old. So I'll do a very quick bit of a 6 months review. Have a look around the exterior. I ceramic coated it yesterday and it's rained in the night, so can have a look at that. A little bit of information about how I'm getting on with efficiency. So you can see some are small journeys, some are bigger journeys. So it's all kind of averaging around about the same. I live on a bit of a hill, so I'm guessing that was probably into town and back. But generally speaking, I'm really quite impressed with the efficiency of this. And if you look next to the mileage, the 3.3, that's what it's averaged since I've had it. So it's 3.3 miles per kilowatt hour since I've had it. Sometimes it's been high, sometimes it's been low, but that's the average over the 5,623 miles. So yeah, all in all, I've been very impressed with it. It's holding up really well. The inside's a bit dirty, needs hoovering today actually. But generally speaking, it's been pretty impressive. I've had some very comfortable journeys in this. There have been in nap mode several times. So yeah, it's been pretty good. So let's go look at the outside. So just looking around the exterior, you can see the beading from the ceramic coating from yesterday. It looks pretty cool. Unfortunately, I've got myself a little stone chip, which is cracks the front plastic. And there's a couple of little stone chips here and there. But generally speaking, it's been pretty good. There was a little scratch on the side that, since I ceramic coated it, has completely disappeared. It was only a very, very light one. But completely gone now. In fact, I actually can't see where it was. But yeah, just kind of looking around it, it's looking pretty good now, nice and clean, and other than what you'd expect from dirt and stuff, but I managed to avoid most things from shoppers. Checking the tyres out, so it's done 5,000 miles and it's even wear all the way across it. Make sure the tyre pressures have always been good. This is the all-wheel drive version, so you always kind of keep an eye on what you're getting from the tyres. But that's the front two, and the backs are exactly the same. It's been pretty impressive with the way that it's worn so far, so fingers crossed. Okay, so now I'm going to try something that I did at the start of the year in the winter. So I did an auto versus manual regen video, where we kind of decided that auto was the best way and the best thing to do, so just leave it there. So that's pretty much what I've been doing. The difference now is that today it's 20 degrees, then it was 7 and then it got up to 8 degrees. So I'm going to do exactly the same drive in auto, just to see if we get any difference whatsoever with the range and the efficiency, with it being a lot warmer. So it's been sat overnight, it's 20 degrees, I've not charged it for a couple of days, I've not used it today other than just drive here. So it'd be interesting to see if it pans out the same. So let's see what happens. So I'm going to take it steady, stick to the speed limit. The aircon is off, but the fan's on. It's on set on 17 degrees now. I'm thinking probably in the winter I'd have probably had it set on 20 with no aircon. So it's going to be very, very similar. 197.9 price of fuel now, which is a lot more expensive than it was at the start of the year, but savings on electricity have been pretty impressive. So one of the things I've noticed in the 5,600 miles I've been driving is that I just leave it in eco mode all the time. Even if you floor it to do an overtake, it's still enough. But if you kind of planning ahead and you know that you're going to be doing an overtake, I just drop it down into normal mode and between normal mode and sport mode, you don't tend to get a lot of difference. If I click through it now, 173 on normal mode and 168 on sport mode is the range that comes down. So I'll put it back to eco mode. You don't tend to notice a great amount of difference. It's been pretty good. I haven't really played with it to drop it through the different settings. Just kind of got on with it, to be honest. It's more than enough. And then I've heard some people say that they don't think it's cold enough in the aircon during the summer. Now, I always use the preconditioning. So if I'm going to get in it and it's hot, then I'll set it to 17 degrees and let it run. I think it times out to 10 minutes on the app. But if you run it for 10 minutes and you get in it, then that's a good starting point. And then either leaving it on auto or leaving it on 17 and having it on fan setting number 2. It hasn't really made a lot of difference. I found it plenty cold enough, and in fact we did a long drive last week and we ended up switching it to auto and ramping it up to about 20 degrees. So it's been plenty cold enough. There's also been some talk about whether having it in eco mode or normal mode increases the air conditioning. I've not noticed that. Be interested if anybody has in the comments, just kind of see what your experiences have been. But I've not noticed that at all. I've tried it and I've not seen it, to be honest. Just kind of planning and preconditioning and setting the temperature for yourself and how comfortable you are. These fan vents are quite good. You know, you can direction, you can switch them off, and if you switch them off and then have kind of the external ones or on your feet, you can kind of play around with how much air you want around the cabin. And it depends. If you've got the kids in the car, or if you've got family in the car, you're going to want something different than if you're on your own. Generally, if I'm on my own, I'll leave it to driver only, so only half the side of the car works, and that seems to make a bit of a difference as well. So I'm seeing 4.3 miles to kilowatt hour at the moment. You can see from the power meter on the right hand side, it's just did a little bit of regen as we come down the hill. Take my foot completely off. I feel the regen's a lot more. And you can see on here now, I've changed the software on this since the start of the year, so you can actually see what you're using and what you're recuperating. So it's using 2 kilowatts just to come down the hill at the minute. That's pretty much. If I take my foot completely off, 27, 26, 24, it's putting it back into the battery, which is quite interesting to see that actually. Because if you put your foot down to see how much power it uses while you're accelerating, you'd be quite surprised. And that's just in EV settings, 4 arrows on the top, no 3 on the top, and then just go into consumption and it shows it from there. It's quite an interesting place to be. So yeah, it's gone up to 8.8 now. So since we've been doing that regen coming down the hill, it's now 8.8 miles per kilowatt hour. And that's where I say about the average over the time I've had it is 3.3. Drives like this when you're being gentle and careful, and with that bit of regen, changes that number and gets it quite high. So this bit's a bit of a climb now, so you'll see that drop back down again when we start to use a little bit more power. I'm trying to keep my foot exactly in the same place on the throttle, and in fact if I actually set cruise control, I can set cruise controls there to 30, here we go. So let's drop it down to 32 miles an hour, so that's well under 30. And you can see it changing, so a bit of a hill here, 15, 18, 21, 17, 14, 9 as it levels off a little bit. So it's really interesting if you set this to cruise control so that you know that it's the same output without using your foot, and watching how that changes. 14, climbing a little bit here, so it's averaging and stopping at 14. So it's actually quite interesting to see exactly what it is that's going on. So knock it off, regen brake in, up to 25, 26. And that's changed it then to 6.4 miles per kilowatt hour. So it's going to be interesting actually. It's going to be, I'd say, quite a lot higher when we get to the finish. So again, going up a hill here, 9, 10, easy enough on the bend, a little bit of regen. Dodgy around here, especially with the hedge. And also, as daft as it sounds, having ceramic coated it yesterday, that might add a little bit of extra glide through the air ability. Actually, for the first time today, I've noticed a leaf that was wet and stuck to the car was actually slid off it because of the coating. So after that little bit of a climb out of the village then, it's come back down 5.2 and it's now back on 4.9. Just taking it steady to the speed limit. So this is going to be nice and steady now, down back to the main road before we get to the finish. You can see it's just getting a little bit of regen, not too much, but just a little bit. And then completely off the pedal, regens back up to 20. It's gone back up to 5 miles per kilowatt hour now. Ooh, that's not good. Didn't stop then. Maybe come in. So just gently up to 50. Right, so there we have it. I'll pop a side-by-side video so you can see. But when I was here last time, it was 3.9 miles per kilowatt hour at 8 degrees. And now, in fact, we've gone up to 22 degrees now, so it's a bit warmer. So we've, you can just see how the weather affects batteries and warmth and temperatures and rain and wind and all that sort of stuff. Maybe even the ceramic coatings helped, who knows. But as you can see from that, that's pretty conclusive that leaving it in auto and driving it gently, you'll have no issues whatsoever. And do you know what? Since I've had this car, I've had no range anxiety whatsoever. The charging network's pretty impressive. You've just got a plan. If you decide to go for a road trip and don't think about what you're doing and where you're going, you're probably going to get caught out. But we've done a couple of no-notice road trips before and just gone out with whatever the state of charge is in the car and see how far we get and what happens. And using Zap Map and a better route planner is really good. It always seems to be pretty much either bang on or it kind of is a little bit on the kind of cautious side. So you generally arrive at wherever it is you're going with on your car more than what you expected. So that's quite good. So it just gives you that little bit of mind peace of mind that you're going to get there and there's going to be no problems. So yeah, pretty impressive. All good. Thanks a lot. Like and subscribe. More coming.